Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Finca la Fuente Wash Process Colombia from Koppi Coffee Roasters. And there's the bag right there. And Koppi, based out of Helsingborg in Sweden. They are the first ever Swedish coffee roaster we reviewed on this channel, and they were featured a couple times during Cafe Box's advent calendar, where we reviewed a Wash Process Colombia and a Wash Process Costa Rica. But this is our first time ever reviewing a full bag of their coffee. Now, the impression we got from those coffees were they were fine. They were on the more tame side, and they weren't necessarily our favorite. But that being said, we were curious to see if we played around with our coffee a little bit more, see what we could get from it having a full bag. So looking forward to discussing this coffee specifically. This right here is day 16 of this coffee. And of course, it must be noted that typically with these lighter Nordic coffees, we want to extend them out a little further. So we did start it a little earlier, and we did finish this coffee pretty early by day 16, but we were pretty much out of coffee. So that's the caveat on this review. So take it with a grain of salt. Understand that typically with something like this, you do want to extend it out just a little further. All right, our recipe for this one, they do have a very loose brew guide on their website, but the ratio they have is a 16.67 to 1. And playing around with it, we like the best at 208 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a lighter Nordic roast for the roast profile. With all of that out of the way, let's start discussing this coffee. Day 8, and again, just like with the other coffees we'd had from Koppi, very similar experience. Pretty light chocolate bar with some subtle fruit flavors. And from those previous reviews, it was like a craft chocolate bar with some raspberry notes. When you get those really nice and luxurious craft chocolate bars, and they have those kind of nice subtle florals and fruit notes, that's the way Koppi's coffee has always come off to me specifically. Light chocolate bar with these subtle fruit, tropic, floral notes. Did updose the coffee, forgot to look at the recipe, so did updose the coffee to 15 in 1, and it was a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more fruit flavor, complemented with some slightly sweet milk chocolate. Then we played around more with the temperature, and upping the temperature to 208 degrees, we were able to get a little bit more out of this coffee. It's still a pretty tame kind of milk chocolate, but there are some slightly more prominent tropicals when the temperature is upped. Same thing with day 12. Day 12 was a pretty decent day for this coffee. Some nice tropicals, coffee. Again, really like it better at the higher temperatures. Day 13, coffee was continuing to get better, so I think this coffee would get better with more time, probably looking at maybe day 20 plus is when it's probably going to be at its best. Coffee was definitely growing on me, still pretty delicate with those nice kind of tropical fruit flavors. Relatively delicate coffee on day 14 still, super subtle fruits, but a little bit more lively as they were cooling down. Let me see on day 16 if that's still the case. As this coffee is cooling down, it does become a little bit more bright, and I am getting a little bit more from it. What it was at one point a pretty tame, and we'll just go with tame coffee, it does definitely liven up a little bit more as it does age and cool down. Day 15, best overall way to describe this coffee is still a craft chocolate base, complemented by some very light flavors and notes. This won't be the most wild cup, but I would say that it was pretty consistent. What was really nice about this was from day 8, it's tasted the way it did on day 16, but it's been getting better and better. The flavors have become a little bit more prominent, a little bit more notable, and the coffee as a whole has become more enjoyable. All right, let me go ahead and put up the tasting wheel so you can see what I was getting. Putting up this tasting wheel does look quite similar to the other tasting wheels from the other coffees we have reviewed of theirs. Pretty clean cup, not the sweetest, not the most wild. Chocolate level 3, really nice milk chocolate, complemented by some nice citrus fruit. The citrus was the one I was getting the most of. Some subtle stone, some subtle berry fruit, a little bit of florals. Sweetness at level 3, that might be a little high, truth be told. Body pretty light. Overall, I think this is a pretty decent representation of what I'm getting from this coffee. Thoughts and opinions of this coffee specifically, and Koppi. So I think that getting to play around with this coffee did help a little bit more. Their instructions on their website are a little interesting, because they do say that if the coffee is a little flat or flavorless, and add some things to it, some like lemon juice, I believe, or some vinegar. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I didn't try that out. I didn't feel comfortable trying it out, truth be told. But, you know, just more time will make this coffee better. Some higher temperature seems to make this coffee better, and this experience was better than the previous experiences I'd had, so it's kind of made me a little bit more interested in some Koppi coffees in the future. I do want to try something that isn't a South or Central American. Curious to see how maybe their Kenyans or their Ethiopians might come off, and if I see one of those in the future, I'll probably give it a shot and try and review those. But the type of person I would suggest this to is still pretty similar to the type of person I would suggest the previous Koppi coffees to. If you do really like those kind of upper end craft chocolate bars, really fancy ones with those nice subtle fruit flavors to them, especially if you like your lighter coffees, I think this is a perfect kind of hand-in-hand fit. This was a nice break from the over-the-top, super wild anaerobic coffees I'd had from Onyx, and that part I did enjoy about this coffee. So again, they're not going to be the most wild out there, from my experience anyway, Nordic coffee roaster, but they're pretty consistent and they provide a decent cup. I'm going to leave it at that though. I'm curious if you've tried Koppi, your thoughts and impressions of them overall as a whole, especially if you've tried this coffee as well. Curious about your thoughts on this one. If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. This right here has been a review of the Finca la Fuente wash process Colombia from Koppi Coffee Roasters. Thank you for watching.